We're just born. Like, we are just born. I never really thought of where or how we came here. We are just here, alive and confused. We just assume that people are a part of our world and that many people in our lives are just some special additions that make our lives worth living. Sometimes I can't even fathom the idea of someone else having a life after I leave them. It's weird. See, that's the thing. Imagine your parents having some sort of life before. Imagine them not being your parents. Imagine them as normal human beings who maybe go out for a drink or two or three. Imagine them being someone who goes to the disco, dancing to I Will Survive, sweating and moving every muscle in a moment that they will never forget. Imagine being the shortest one in the family, out of all of your brothers and sisters, and somehow becoming the great chef. To say the least, my parents are some interesting people. I can't imagine having anyone else as parents, obviously, but they are so uniquely unique. I can't believe these two immigrants who used to live in the same barrio in Dominican Republic then came and immigrated at different times and met each other and fell in love and then had me, their beautiful child. I am a pretty beautiful child. I will not lie. And I'm pretty funny. Well, now I wonder how they met. What was the moment that gave them love, that spark, that little glimmer where you look at someone and you think you can have something with them, you can live a life with them, you can foster a family with them, and say those special words, I love you. Those special words that make your back tingle, make your legs wobble, that moment, that singular moment. That's it. I'll ask them. I'll learn from them. I will figure out what they did and how they did it and when they did it and how their lives changed. That's it. I figured it out. I'll just ask them. Duh. Hola, mami, ¿cómo estás? Bien? Good? Good. Thank you for sitting here and letting me ask you all these extremely personal and revealing questions about yourself. I thank you for being the amazing loving mother that you are. Yes, indeed. So, I know you tell me this all the time, but what was it like to come to New York? What was that life? What was that plane ride? The sounds, the smells? She says, there were three of us, me and your brothers, at the airport of the Americas. We ran frantically looking for the gate 23, heading to Nueva York. We got on the plane. I looked at my kids, for they were my hope. For I didn't have much, a woman, no husband, no family. Flying to New York, only children on her side, only change in her pocket. There were only three of us that would make do. A sea of blue riddled with patches of green emerged, a city full of light, shining as gold above the skies. We walked to find no home, no familiar face. Inside the pocket of mine was a $20 bill, two $5 bills. My family had forced me out to here, to survive in a city with nobody. Just us three. Out of JFK onto Bushwick, 10 a.m. We took a rest at a motel. The children slept, I wept, I dreaded, I feared for me, my life, my world, no family to call. Where am I? To take responsibility for these children, forced to care, forced to fight, forced to be here? How did we get here? Why are we here? Where do we go? A mother with two, with no plan, with no future, with no shame. My mommy, my mother, my mama, a hard-working woman, the definition of a matriarch. When she first came to New York, my mother would quickly enroll my cousin and my older brother in classes. They would settle on a school near Bushwick. Around there, my mother would find work and then find a temporary living situation with her two children. She would work a variety of jobs, some difficult and some that paid her well. We'll come back to them. During the same time, my father, Mr. Rafael Alejandro Delacruz, a couple of years older than my mama, but here's his story. Now, my father's a scary man. Many people would think of a family man to be the 6-foot lumberjack looking man, but no, my Boppy is quite different. He's the 5'3" handyman cook of a family man. Scary stuff, I say. But my pops is also a gambling man. Yes, he is. Similar to my mom, my dad came to Nueva York by himself this time with no children to boot. He was better off than my mother, of course. When you're riding solo, you don't have to worry about the burdens of taking care of children. You don't have to worry about the financial burdens of America. Just yet. He came to New York City to care for his family at home. He was a risky and given man. Whatever type of work he needed to do, he could do it. Do you need someone to fix your roof? He got you. Do you need someone to be your line cook? I best believe he can. Need someone for anything that requires labor for a beer and a shot? He'll do it as quickly as he can. He's a gambling man. I didn't forget that part. A part of him always wanted to strike big, to hit the mega million and become a mega millionaire, to show that he could do it. Being the smallest big brother had something on his soul. He had a chip. He didn't want the help of his family. So years pass by, and years he pays and he fights for his family to get to the United States. Over 15 boarding tickets from the Dominican Republic to New York City. First his mom, then his sisters, and then his brothers. And with all of them, not even a single thank you. I paid. Every flight, every room, every bed, every drink, every second. I paid. I was the first. I was the oldest. I was forced to live the dream for them, to walk on the land before them, to be their safety net. Where is my safety net? Where is my house? Where is my reward? Who's going to care for me? I lifted bricks. I burnt myself for you, family. Betrayers, you walked out on me. You walked out the door. You moved away. You left me with the city lights on. You left me for houses. You left me. Years would fly and mommy is now a manager at McDonald's, staying put with her two boys who grew up into smart young adults. They were able to be self-sufficient finally. My mother would also finally find housing inside of Brooklyn. After years of house hopping and meeting people, she would make a home near Farragut. A 2-bedroom apartment with space for her and the young adults to play. During this time, a man known as Rafael Alejandro de la Cruz, aka my father, was living next door at apartment 1D. He was working as a handyman at the Chinese supply store. Yes, you heard correctly. My father and mother were both friendly neighbors and would always watch out for one another. They were just friends. Mommy had become a complete workaholic. She would start her day early to end it, getting home, and she'd take extra shifts and stretch herself thin, almost to death. The start of Mommy and Boppy's collaboration would begin when she knocked on his door at 7 a.m. begging Boppy to take her kids to high school because they had been cut in class. She says she believed he was going to say no, but he didn't. He smiled and went to get ready. This would go on for weeks until the summer. My father would then invite her for coffee on a random morning. She'd reject the offer. She had to go to work. Yeah, okay. He would continue to invite and invite until one day she budged. She took the chance. She took a sip, and with a sip, she loved the coffee. So they would start to meet every Friday around 2 p.m. before her sons came back home, and she would sit down with my pops and share jokes and coffee. This would go on for months and months. Months became years, and there was a bond and a special relationship built by them. Something you can call love. Something was blooming between them. They would go to nightclubs and drink more than coffee. They would walk around Dumbo and they would run errands together. My mom and my dad were just having fun. Two middle-aged people finding love in a weird, brand new world. My mother was in her early 40s and my father was in his late 40s. Thoughts of marriage would spring up and maybe moving out and finding a home, but something else was brewing. It's 6 a.m. on September 11th, 2001. Boppy and Mommy both get ready for their day. Coffee and the discussion of who's going to vote for who. Today was the primary elections. The talk of dinner and maybe going out. My mother heads for work. And then the McDonald's on 23rd Street. My father stays home. It's his off day. Now, my mom gets to work around 7:30-ish. She starts her preparations. It was a normal day. In a story heard thousands of times by different people, the first plane struck the tower around 8 or 9 p.m. a.m. My mother was in complete shock. She didn't know what was happening. Being a woman who barely speaks English, hearing everyone panic frightened her. She said, it was a moment of silence. Fear followed. Fear of who was lost. Fear if I would survive. Fear of my children, my lover. Would I survive to see them? Where am I? My mother would then start to call my father into school. She was able to reach the school and confirm that her boys were doing well and were safe. She called my father over and over and over again, but he didn't pick up. She said she called him around 30 times in that hour alone. During that time, my father was frantically walking around Dumbo, walking to the Brooklyn Bridge. He wanted to go see if my mother was even alive. He was scared. He didn't know what was happening. By the time the second tower was hit, panic set amongst my parents. Both didn't know what was happening. The life in New York that had brought them so close scared them. They thought it was the last time they would ever see each other. They thought that war was impending. After what seemed like days, my mother finally made it across the Brooklyn Bridge. Standing there was the 5'3", scary line cook handyman that she grew to love. Relief and somberness hit for them. For there, my mother saw my father to be a true husband. They walked back home, shared coffee, and comforted one another for the rest of the night. Well, my mom starts to gain weight, starts to crave weird foods like Popeyes and cup noodles. At the same time, hot dogs and shrimp. Gross. But something was going on. My mommy was pregnant with me. Yes! She could not believe it, and my father could also not believe it. It was thought my mother could bear no children. This scared my father, and at the time he had never been a father, and he was scared to even have children. 9 months pass, and we are all in the hospital. I'm ready to come out. My mom's ready for me to come out, but my dad would rather me stay in the womb. This man had so much fear in his stomach that he forgot to add a middle name and Junior on my certificate. He was frozen in fear. And then I came out. Silence filled the room. Then confusion. How did these two brown-skinned people produce a pale ginger child? To this day, I can't give you the answer, but I can give you an answer about me and my familia. My mommy and papi, I love them very much. and I want to give them a special thanks for being a part of this. I appreciate them very much. And making this has given me a new understanding and appreciation for them. Thank you for everything, for the hard work you both put in. Down.